Good morning, my Real News Media TV family. Thank you so much for tuning in this morning, and I'm wishing for everyone a wonderful and a productive day. And in the news this morning for February 24, 2024, 52 killed in motor vehicle crashes this year, says RSU. 8 people were killed in 5 fatal crashes during the week ending Friday, February 23, according to the Road Safety Unit. This has pushed to 52 the number of people killed in motor vehicle crashes since the start of the year. In its weekly crash report released on Friday, the RSU said the latest fatalities include 4 passengers of private motor cars, 1 pedal cyclist, a motorcyclist, and the 2 drivers of private motor cars. An 87-year-old female, a private motor car passenger, is the only female among the latest victims of motor vehicle crashes. They also included the 4 young men who perished in a horrific crash in Trelawney on February 18. Meanwhile, the RSU is reporting that the 52 deaths this year resulted from 44 fatal crashes. The unit said fatal crashes have decreased by 15%, while fatalities have decreased by 9% when compared with a similar period in 2023. The RSU is projecting that fatalities for 2024 will decrease by 2% when compared with 2023. Meanwhile, it is reported that pedestrians currently account for 17% of road users killed. As of February 23, motorcyclists account for 33%, drivers of private motor vehicles account for 21%, and the passengers of private motor vehicles account for 15%. The group of road users classified as the most vulnerable, pedestrians, pedal cyclists, motorcyclists, and pillion riders, account for 56% of road users killed as of February 23. Males currently account for 81%, and the females 19% of the road deaths so far this year. Reduced the sentence for man who killed a girlfriend at a Manchester supermarket. The Court of Appeal has reduced the sentence of Andre Bromfield, the man who shot his girlfriend several times in the head at their supermarket job in Manchester. He pleaded guilty to manslaughter arising from the fatal shooting of Chantal White on December 31, 2019. He was sentenced to 18 years and 5 months, but the Court of Appeal has reduced it to 15 years and 7 months. White was shot 5 times in the head while in the lunchroom at the Master Mac food store in Mandeville, Manchester, where she and Bromfield were employed. On the day of the incident, Bromfield told a co-worker that another co-worker had kissed White on the cheek. When White responded that the kiss should have been on her lips, Bromfield got into a rage, pulled his licensed firearm and shot her. Bromfield, who is now 33, contended on appeal that the sentence was manifestly excessive. Attorney at law Norman Godfrey, who represented Bromfield, had argued that the judge erred when she had failed to demonstrate the method of calculation applied at arriving at the sentence of 18 years and 5 months. He said she arrived at her decision having ascribed to the aggravating circumstances a period of 18 years without demonstrating the method she applied to arrive at that calculation. Godfrey submitted that having looked at a number of cases treating with similar circumstances, a more appropriate and justifiable sentence, given the total of circumstances, including the mitigating factors, would be between 6 to 10 years imprisonment at hard labor. Crown Counsel Malika Keller and Dwayne Green opposed the application. Keller argued that the judge utilized the correct principles and methodology in determining the sentence and urged the court not to interfere with the sentence imposed, as it was neither harsh nor manifestly excessive. The court found that the judge erred in principle in respect of the sentencing process. We are of the view that the starting point of 7 years was not appropriate for the particular circumstances of the present case. The applicant shot the deceased, with whom he was having an intimate relationship, 5 times in the head with his licensed firearm, the court ruled this month. A starting point of 15 years would be more appropriate, taking into consideration the applicant's culpability and the harm caused. The court, comprising Justice Jennifer Straw, Justice Nicole Foster Pusey, and Justice Vivian Harris, ruled. The court, in agreeing with Godfrey's submissions that the judge erred in her calculation, said we identified some errors in the approach adopted by the sentencing judge as it related to the steps to be followed in the calculation process as well as the adjustment to the aggravating factors. We also identified a minor error in her application of the mitigating factors. In allowing the appeal against the sentence, the court substituted a sentence of 15 years and 7 months imprisonment for the pre-detention period of 2 years and 5 months having been deducted. The sentence is to run from May 31, 2022, when it was imposed. Defense completes closing submission in Beaches Stout trial. The defense in the Everton Beaches Stout McDonald and Oscar Barnes trial has concluded its closing submission to the jury. Presiding Judge Justice Chester Stamp is to begin summing up the case on Tuesday. Mr. McDonald and Mr. Barnes are on trial for the July 20, 2020 murder of Mr. McDonald's wife, Tonya. The legal team for Mr. Barnes completed its submission Friday afternoon in the Home Circuit Court, instructing the panel of 7 jurors to return a not guilty verdict. Mr. Barnes is represented by attorneys Vincent Leslie and Ernest Davis. Mr. Davis told the jurors that they could not hold the fact that his client gave an unsworn statement against him. He informed them that his client acted on his constitutional right, but he argued that the case against his client is one of identification and credibility, as the prosecution's main witnesses never met nor communicated with Mr. Barnes. The prosecution's star witness, Denvelin Minot, who was sentenced to 19 years behind bars for his role in Tonya's death, testified that he subcontracted Mr. Barnes to kill Tonya after Mr. McDonald promised him $3 million to kill her. Minot told the court that he and Mr. Barnes lured Tonya to Sherwood Forest, where she was killed and her car burnt, under the guise that they were going to purchase an illegal firearm to avenge her father's death. Mr. Davis said they made up the story about the gun so that it could appear that Minot knows Mr. Barnes. The attorney said none of the telephone numbers assessed by an expert was attributed to Mr. Barnes. Noting that there is no evidence linking Mr. Barnes to the crime besides Minot pointing him out to the police, Mr. Davis said the convict was unable to describe his client in terms of height and complexion. He also submitted to the panel that the investigating officer made up a statement he claimed that Mr. Barnes gave him after he was taken into custody. JLP and the PNP still locked in statistical dead heat days before election. It's a statistical dead heat as to whether voters will go green with the Jamaica Labour Party or head for the People's National Party on Election Day, Monday, February 26. Narrow perfectly describes the 1 percentage point lead held by the Jamaica Labour Party. That is the same gap held in the political poll late last year. In the latest RGR Gleaner Don Anderson poll, 24% of those surveyed say they will be voting for the ruling party and 23% for the People's National Party. Noticeably higher is the 26% who will not be voting and the same number who are unsure if they will be doing so. Only 1% say they would vote for an independent candidate. Pollster and head of market research services Don Anderson says the party with the best campaign strategy on Monday will take the election. It says either number can play. Speaking of which, it's a numbers game. So the party that gets out its supporters best of all on Monday will win the election on the basis of the data. He said that tradition is also the biggest influence on voter intention, with 42% for the JLP and 46% for the PNP. Tradition has been stronger for the People's National Party than it has been for the Jamaica Labour Party. Males are going to support the PNP more, and more females are going to support the Jamaica Labour Party. In the 25 to 34 age group, it is basically evenly split between the Jamaica Labour Party and the People's National Party, Mr. Anderson noted. Interestingly, 19% of JLP supporters believe the party is doing a good job, while 13% of PNP supporters believe their party will do better. Meanwhile, 4% say they are voting JLP because the party has better leaders, and 8% of PNP voters say the same for their party. 5% say they have personally benefited from the JLP, and 3% from the PNP. 10% of prospective JLP voters say the councillors are working, 5% each believe the party has better policies, and that the country is progressing. 3% each say the party is better and that it is meeting the people's needs. For PNP voters, 13% say they want a change, a running theme for the party's campaign. Another 12% say the PNP is the party for the poor, 8% say they put the people first, and 3% say they are supporting because they are dissatisfied with the JLP. If the polls hold true, it will be a nail-biting finish in the race to secure local governance. Of the 228 divisions, the JLP holds 130 and the PNP holds 98, plus the Portmore Municipal Corporation. The poll was conducted amongst a sample of 1,010 registered voters aged 18 and older. Field work was conducted between February 2 to February 7. The margin of error was plus or minus 3%.